Hey guys, welcome back. This is part 4 of the Epstein-Barr virus video series, and we're going to be talking about natural strategies to treat the virus. We're going to talk about nutrients, herbs, and also some lifestyle considerations. Now, my disclaimer before we get started is that in my own clinical practice, I use specific herbs to treat Epstein-Barr virus that are not necessarily safe for everyone and not necessarily easy to get your hands on if you're not a practitioner. So what I'm going to do today is make recommendations for other herbs that are generally safe for most people but still have really powerful antiviral activity, things that you can easily get your hands on. So that's my goal, is to make this actionable and useful for all of you watching at home. So the first thing I want to talk about is nutrition. Before we jump into supplements and herbs, let's just take a minute to talk about nutrition. Whenever you're trying to support the health of your immune system, you want to be really careful about sugar. Sugar is known to suppress the activity of your immune cells, and it causes inflammation. And so anything sweet like candy, baked goods, I would recommend avoiding those when you're trying to heal from any chronic illness. It's also helpful to take a supplement of L-lysine. So L-lysine is an amino acid, but it inhibits viral activity. So I will link down in the description bar below one of my favorite L-lysine supplements, and you can take a couple of those each day to help get that virus in check. Another nutrient that's really useful for overall immune health is vitamin A. Vitamin A will increase our immune cells called natural killer or NK cells. And those are great because they directly kill viruses and cancer cells. And so when you take vitamin A, you're helping to increase the activity of those natural killer cells. It's going to give you an extra boost in trying to fight that virus. Be careful with dosing. You don't want to take too much vitamin A. One of my favorite products that has vitamin A and zinc, it's called Acnetrol. I will link to that down in the description bar. I don't recommend taking all 6 capsules like it says on the bottle, but 2 to 3, 2 to 4 a day would be a good dose. And you don't want to take this longer than 6 weeks or so. Also with vitamin A, be very careful if you are pregnant or planning to become pregnant. That's true with anything I mentioned today. If you're pregnant, nursing, or planning to become pregnant, you always want to talk with your doctor to make sure that it's safe for you. But vitamin A in particular can cause problems with the fetus. So always be very careful if you are a female who's pregnant or thinking of becoming pregnant. I just mentioned zinc as a component of the Acnetrol product that I talked about, and zinc is also really important for fighting Epstein-Barr virus, simply because without zinc, your immune system is dysregulated. It doesn't work well. Specifically, zinc increases the number of T cells that we have, and it increases their activity. Zinc deficiency is very common. I see it all the time in my practice when I check for micronutrient deficiencies. Zinc is high in foods like red meat and shellfish, but sometimes if you don't have a healthy intestinal environment, it's difficult to absorb. So taking a supplement can increase what you do absorb if you're consuming higher amounts. It can be helpful. And again, I really like the Acnetrol product because even though it's meant for acne, I really like the balance of vitamin A, zinc, and selenium that are in that product, because those are all very immune supportive nutrients. So it's kind of convenient for, rather than taking, vitamin A, zinc, and other things, you can just have this one product that has everything that you need in it for immune support. Another nutrient that is really helpful for Epstein-Barr virus is magnesium, and that's because magnesium can pull excess calcium out of the tissues. When calcium is high in the tissues, the virus can be triggered to replicate. And magnesium is something that most of us don't get enough of in our diet as it is. Unfortunately, our soil has become so depleted because of our modern agricultural practices and the way that we grow our food. The soil is never given a chance to rebuild itself. And so most of us are not getting enough magnesium even if we eat healthy. I really like Triple Mag from Vital Nutrients. It's one of my favorites. I will also link that down in the description bar. And I would recommend 1 or 2 capsules with dinner. I like to dose magnesium in the evening because it can have a calming and relaxing effect. So it's good to take that later in the day when you're already sort of winding down. The other benefit of magnesium is that it can help with constipation. So taking that before dinner can help support a healthy bowel movement in the morning when your body has a natural tendency towards a bowel movement between 8 and 10 in the morning. That's sort of how our circadian clock is wired. So far we've talked about vitamin A, zinc, and magnesium. Selenium, I briefly mentioned selenium because it's in the same acnetrol product that I was talking about just a moment ago. Selenium actually helps to reduce viral load and your predisposition to viral infection in general. So again, I really like the acnetrol product. It's got vitamin A, it's got zinc, it's got selenium, and I think that's a really immune supportive product. Okay, so let's talk about some botanicals or herbs that are really helpful for killing viruses, and specifically Epstein-Barr virus. So the first recommendation I have is turmeric. Turmeric is a root that contains a compound called curcumin. I think most people have heard of this, and it's just a great herb. It's very safe, it's anti-inflammatory, and in one research study in particular, it was shown to have profound antiviral activity against Epstein-Barr virus. They tested over 20 different herbs, and turmeric came out on top in terms of its antiviral activity for Epstein-Barr. The number 2 botanical in that study was passion flower, and I actually use passion flower as a part of my Epstein-Barr treatment protocol in my practice. What's great about passion flower is number 1, it's antiviral against Epstein-Barr, but number 2, part of the fatigue that goes along with Epstein-Barr is because it's hurting your mitochondria. Those are the parts of our cells that are like the energy powerhouses. They make our energy. So if that virus is hurting the energy-making components of our cells, of course we're going to be tired, but passion flower helps to protect the mitochondria. Another reason passion flower is so great for Epstein-Barr virus is because it's very calming, and it supports the adrenals and it reduces stress. So if stress is a trigger for reactivating Epstein-Barr virus, if we can take something to help manage that stress response, it's a win-win. So passion flower has so many great qualities, and there's so many reasons to include it in your treatment plan, and it's so safe for most people. I cannot think of any real contraindications. It can make you drowsy. Again, always check with your provider, but I love passion flower because even in large quantities, it is safe for most people, antiviral, supports your mitochondria, and can reduce the stress burden in your life. Now, another great herb that is really supportive for the immune system and can help you fight viruses is andrographis. Andrographis is available in tablets and liquids. I usually give the tablets, and it really just increases your immune response. You have to be careful if you have an autoimmune disease, because if you are already in a state of immune overreactivity, like in an autoimmune condition, you have to be careful about stimulating your immune system even more. However, it's great for colds and flu. It's great for increasing the parts of your immune system that fight viruses. I will say that about 1 out of every 100 people are allergic to andrographis, and they can develop a rash or itching and tingling around their body. So I always tell my patients to start with 1 tablet, wait a day, and see how you respond. If you don't notice anything, it's probably fine for you, and then you can take 3 to 4 tablets a day to help increase your immune response. Olive leaf is another great antiviral, and it's pretty broad spectrum against fungi and bacteria and all types of pathogens, but I really like olive leaf extract for viruses specifically. As an added benefit for olive leaf, if you happen to have any sort of intestinal infections, it's going to have broad spectrum activity against that as well. So it's kind of a win-win. It's antiviral, it's antifungal, it's antibacterial. It's a really good broad spectrum, and most people tolerate it very well. Lemon balm, or Melissa officinalis, is another very well-known, wonderful antiviral specifically for viruses in the herpes family, and Epstein-Barr virus is a part of the herpes virus family. And the way lemon balm works is that it prevents the virus from being able to get into our cells. Remember in the earlier video I talked about how the virus infects our B cells, specifically the B cells of the immune system, and that can set off another cascade of events leading to autoimmune disease. So Melissa is great because it prevents that virus from being able to get into our cells. I also know that if you take lemon balm ointments, you can apply it topically if you happen to have a cold sore or herpes outbreak on your lips or on your genitals, and that'll help get rid of the lesions much faster. It's a very well-known remedy for herpes virus issues. I usually dose Melissa in a liquid form called a tincture. That is an alcohol extract. And you could do like half a teaspoon 3 times a day. The other thing I love about lemon balm is that it's what's called a nervine. So it calms our nerves, it calms the stress response. It is said to bring joy to the heart. And these are all things that we want to do if we are in a state of stress that's leaving us vulnerable to this reactivation of the infection in the first place. A word of caution with lemon balm, however, it has been documented to have some anti-thyroid activity. It can get in the way of thyroid stimulating hormone. And so if you have hypothyroidism or low thyroid function, you want to be careful with lemon balm. I don't know that it would have a significant effect, but I always like to err on the side of caution. So if you're someone that has an autoimmune thyroid condition because of the Epstein-Barr virus, I would select different botanicals. But if low thyroid function is not an issue for you, lemon balm is great. It's safe even for children. So I really do like lemon balm, and it's very antiviral for the Epstein-Barr and other herpes viruses. Now, one of my other favorite herbs that is antiviral and just overall anti-inflammatory is ginger. And in this case, fresh ginger juice is going to be really helpful in fighting viruses. I also really like it for colds and flu. It helps to knock it out. If you have a juicer at home, you can get some fresh ginger root, run it through the juicer, take 3 to 4 ounces of that and drink it throughout the day. You can dilute it in hot water, make it like a tea, add a squeeze of lemon if you prefer, but that is just another supportive thing that you can do to have another angle of treatment coming at the virus. And then one last product that is plant-based, I don't consider it an herb necessarily, but it's called arabinogalactin, and that is a soluble fiber that is derived from larch trees. And how it works is that it increases those natural killer cells that I talked about earlier. So those natural killer or NK cells are really important when we're trying to fight viruses, and the arabinogalactins just stimulate those cells so that we have more of them and they have stronger activity. Again, this is very immune stimulating though, so be careful if you have an autoimmune condition. It might not be the best choice for you, but if you don't have an autoimmune condition, I think the arabinogalactin makes a really nice complement to the treatment. And I'll link in the description bar that arabinogalactin product. Okay, so we've talked about nutrition. We have talked about specific herbals that support stress, that support energy and mitochondria, and that help to kill the virus. And now I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the lifestyle factors that can be very helpful and very complementary to supporting your overall health while you're trying to get this virus in check. So for anyone who has a chronic infection like Epstein-Barr, that's going to involve the lymphatic system. And the lymphatic system is like a circulating system around the body that transports white blood cells, and it helps to remove waste and get it out of the body. The problem is that once you've had an infection going on for so long, all of those white blood cells that have been trying to fight the infection can accumulate and build up, and you end up with swollen lymph nodes. You end up with an overall higher toxic burden because that lymph can become sluggish and congested, and you're not as easily able to detoxify through your natural pathways. Now, what's interesting about the lymphatic system is that it doesn't really move independent of the body or independent of circulation. So in other words, we have to get moving to move our lymph. And this is where things like gentle exercise, walking, it doesn't have to be crazy. Anything that gets your circulation moving is going to help lymph. One of my favorite ways to get lymph going, and it's so much fun, get a mini trampoline and just jump on it. It's called rebounding, but jumping on a mini trampoline for 15 minutes a day is a great way to get that lymph moving and circulating. Another thing that I absolutely love is dry body brushing, and that's exactly what it sounds like. While your skin is dry, you take a paddle brush with natural bristles, and with very gentle and very light strokes, you start brushing your skin from the tops of your feet, working your way up to your legs, brushing towards the heart, and that helps to get the lymph moving and it increases circulation. It's great to do right before you shower. So I will link a how-to video in the description bar, and I will also link one of my favorite brushes for doing that, but it's just short, light strokes, and you want to always go towards the heart. That's the important part, remember, is that you're always brushing towards the heart, but just watch the video. It's easier to see than for me to explain exactly how to do it. But again, I just want to drive home the point that getting the lymph moving is a very often forgotten about piece of our health, and that's why movement and stretching and walking around and massage can be very beneficial, so that our overall toxic burden isn't higher than what we can handle. And with long-standing infections, toxins build up, those white blood cells build up, and we've got to get the lymph moving so that we can detoxify those things. Sweating is also great for increasing circulation and getting the lymph moving. If you have access to an infrared sauna or a steam sauna or even a really hot bath, sweating helps to detoxify. It can support the immune system, and it's going to help with circulation and lymphatic flow. So these are some simple lifestyle things that you can do in addition to taking all of these herbs or supplements. You know, I really like to focus on lifestyle and things that don't cost money and things that we would do naturally in our daily lives. Those can be way more supportive than we give credit for. Also, going along the lines of lifestyle practices, it's important to manage your stress, because if stress was the main reason or one of the main reasons that this virus has been able to flare back up in the body and become more aggressive, we have to get stress under control. Sleep is also very important for having a balanced immune system. Not only do you need a good number of hours of sleep, and sometimes when you're healing from a chronic illness, 8 hours is not enough. You might need 10. Of course, sleeping too much can also have health consequences, so you've got to find that sweet spot. But 8 to 10 hours when you're trying to get well, I think, is very important. But not only do you need those hours, you need to sleep during the right time. So if you happen to work a late night shift, that is not supportive of your health. It's very difficult to find ways to support healthy sleep if you're awake and alert during the dark hours. So whatever you can do to be able to get to bed when it's dark outside, sleep during the dark hours of the night, that's going to be really important, because there are specific cells of the immune system that are only activated during the dark hours of the night. And if you're awake, they don't get the opportunity to do their job. And so we are very closely tied to nature and the circadian patterns of nature, and we can't really escape those laws. So whatever you can do to get to bed on time. I also recommend not looking at your cell phones or tablets or laptops close to bedtime, because that blue light that we look at mimics the spectrum of the sun, and that can suppress melatonin production. Melatonin is the sleepy hormone, and if you are not making melatonin, you might have a difficult time sleeping. So if you have to do work on your computer at night, I know I sometimes do, I recommend getting some blue blocking orange tinted goggles. There are also apps that you can download that block the blue light spectrum on your device. I don't know how effective those really are, to be honest, but I do trust the orange goggles. So you might look goofy, but you're going to be a whole lot healthier. And the research is showing now that light is really a drug. It has a profound effect on our hormones and on our physiology. I read a study recently showing that shift work and exposure to light at night is now officially classified as a human carcinogen. So that's very powerful, and I just want to have everyone keep these basic lifestyle things in mind. Like, are we managing stress? Are we getting enough sleep? Are we nurturing our relationships and friendships and supporting ourselves with, close connections? Because being lonely is another risk factor for having poor immune health and lots of inflammation. So, all of these fancy supplements, they are tools, but we always have to go back to the basics. And speaking of going back to basics and back to nature, one thing that I just find so amazing is that going for walks in nature is really helpful for boosting the immune system. It increases those natural killer cells. Again, they actually did a study in Japan where they took 2-hour walks through the forest and measured their blood, and their natural killer cell activity went sky high through the roof. And it stayed high for 7 days after those walks. So we have known for years in naturopathic medicine that spending time in nature has a profound healing effect on the body. It lowers blood pressure, it reduces stress, and now we know it has a direct effect on the immune system too. So I urge you, if you have access to the outdoors, or if you can even go for just a short walk and get some fresh air, or even putting plants in your home, just looking at greenery has a very calming effect on the body and can support our health. But if you can do nature walks through the forest or through the trails, I feel so fortunate to live in Colorado because I've got all of these beautiful trails and paths and forests at my disposal. But if you don't have that, see what you can do to spend some time outdoors and get some fresh air, because all of that is going to help to support your immune system too. And lastly, I want to mention something that I don't know that gets talked about a lot, but I think it is so important, and that's your mindset. You have to believe and trust that you can heal and get better. The research is so clear that when a doctor feels that a patient can get better, and when a patient feels that he or she can get better, that is the best possible outcome. But if either party is doubtful and that person knows it, then the outcome is not as good. So don't ever underestimate the power of belief, and you have to trust and know and believe that you can heal and get better. Making a conscious choice to say, this is what I want for myself and this is how it's going to go. Don't ever underestimate the power of your beliefs, of your mindset, and of being kind and loving to yourself. I think when you've been dealing with a chronic illness for so long, it's easy to become frustrated with yourself or to be angry, and that just fuels the sick process. You have to love yourself. You have to be patient and kind to yourself. You have to surround yourself with people who love you and support you and understand what you're going through. And I just want to encourage everyone to don't stop, because there are things that you can do to turn your health around. So I really hope you guys found this helpful and informative. All of the products and herbs that I recommend, I will make a link down in the description bar. These are professional brands that I like and I recommend. I don't recommend just pulling anything off the shelf in a big box store, because sometimes herbs especially are adulterated and you don't know what's really in them. So I have recommended specific brands that I know are of good quality, just for easy reference for you guys. You don't have to take everything that I've recommended today. I would recommend maybe starting with the L-lysine and then pick 2 to 4 of the herbs that I talked about, and it's okay to rotate them or take 2 at a time or 4 at a time. I encourage you also to do your own research. There are so many antiviral botanicals out there. I just mentioned ones that I know are safe for most people and that have documented efficacy for treating viruses, especially Epstein-Barr virus. But I encourage you to do your own research. And again, if you have any questions or comments, please write them down below. I love hearing from you guys. I love that I'm getting more questions. I really do my best to answer every question. And I just appreciate you watching, and I will see you next time. Be well, everyone. Bye.